to my baby feet. Hello, ink blots on a piece of parchment. Hello, little tiny me, girl buck. Dr. Rankin signs you on to this enormous, excruciating world. This will be your life, girl buck, little 5-pounder. At 10:09 a.m., April 22, 1951, you enter the maelstrom. I want you to know that you are going to suffer unthinkable things, and that your smile, like your father's, will be dazzling through it all. Back then, I hated Peter Orlovsky for touching me in the back seat of the station wagon on the way from Santa Fe to Taos. As we passed Camel Rock for the second time, I drowsed between his body and the body of my brother, Alan, and my parents, as usual, in the front. It was a simple touch, sweet, on the shoulder, the kind of kindly touch one gives a child who is tired and cranky. Almost pity, really. The child on the verge of sleep, helpless against the motor's hum, falling asleep in a rage. Wow. Traveling Mercies 1. We are on the road again. It is night. We are in the mountains. We have been driving these hairpin turns for what seems like hours. It is very dark. The peaks are dark shadows against the dark sky. Part of the road ahead is lit by our headlights, but most of it disappears into the black edge off the guide rails, because we are in high mountain passes, and we are riding hairpin turns and curves, the highway equivalent of switchbacks up steep mountain trails. A car passes us on the road, full of people going crazy fast. Mom says, they better slow down. They're going too fast on these winding roads. They're going to crash for sure, and someone is going to get killed. I doze off to the sound of voices dimmed by the thrum of motor, the hum of tires on the road. Traveling Mercies 2. It is still night, past midnight. We kids are asleep on the mattress in the back of the station wagon. Up front, grown-ups are talking, trying to stay awake, driving and working hard to stay awake, talking to each other. Sudden squeal of brakes. The car slams to a stop. We jerk awake with sleepy heads on sleepy necks, squint into the dark. Jesus Christ, Ed says. Oh, Jesus, Mom sobs. There is a man in the headlights waving us down. He is covered in blood. He comes to the window. Ed rolls the window down. Please, the man says, please. He looks in the window at us. Please. Do you have any blankets you can spare? Do you have water? An accident. A deer in the road. We swerved. There was a semi in the other lane coming around the bend. Cars behind him. Oh, God. People are dying down there. And he points, and we look. Down, down, down past the crushed guardrail to a flat area that looks like a piece of ground somebody broke off whole, with a nightmare of dim lantern light in it, car headlights in mist, broken, torn, and bleeding bodies in it. Somebody just broke that scene off, surrounded it with a dark circle of evergreen in the dark. I can still see the forms, people lurching crazily in the lamplight, mangled bodies of the cars they were in, the jackknife crushed tractor trailer rig, mangled body of the deer off at the side of the road, the screams, the inhuman-sounding cries of humans crying their tornness in the eerie light, in a high, high, round moon, well above in the dark blackness of the sky. How it didn't light anything up. This is not a dream. Say it, not a dream. traveling Mercy's 3. They open the back of the station wagon. They rifle through our stuff. Move, Bette says to us. Get out of the way. They pull blankets out from under us, canteens of water, whatever they can find. We shiver and watch out the side window as they disappear, half sliding, half leaping down the steep incline to the nightmare below. Ed moves like a phantom among the dead and dying. I don't know what he's doing. Trying to help. Impossible to help. All that carnage. High mountain pass. No phone anywhere. No hope of an ambulance. The middle of the night. The mid-50s. Before highway patrol emergency phones every few miles on the roadside. Way before cell phones. All those dying, those bleeding and sobbing and screaming and crying people. Women with bloody hair and hands. Men lying crumpled on the ground under blankets. Little kids. It's awful, it says when he gets back in the car. Jesus, it's fucking awful. There's nothing we can do. We'll call an ambulance the first town we get to. He throws the car in reverse, backs up to get some traction, and peels out off the road in the dark. Up the road in the dark. Around the next bend, mountain peaks rise to meet us, black and comforting, blocking out the sky, blocking out the shining moon, blocking out the leg of journey we are leaving behind us as fast as we can. The headlights beaming out in front to light the few hundred yards ahead before the next turn, the next hairpin curve, the next ascent. Archetype. I don't know exactly where or when that happened. It was in some high mountain pass. It could have been later, after Burlington, after New Mexico even. We drove so much, made so many mountain passages, sometimes on a summer trip, sometimes on our way to the next landing place, that it really could have happened anywhere, anytime. It's a memory that hovers, unanchored, indeterminate, in the air that was my early childhood. I have never been able to place it exactly, except that I feel small in it. I feel small enough to have experienced it as a pastiche of sounds and images that carried a cumulative emotional effect, rather than a sequential narrative that had a coherent structure, built to a crisis, ebbed away, took into account the other lives that intersected with ours. I don't think the horror of the scene stayed with me because I had a concept of what I was witnessing. For instance, the way the adults might have. I think it stayed with me because of the eeriness of those images, the peculiar combination of dark black night, diffuse moonlight from a high-risen moon, pools of dim light at the crash scene, the dark bodies shifting in the dark, bending among the dark bodies on the ground, the car headlights pouring into the darkness, and the feelings I picked up from the adults, their shock and horror and grief. It feels like a young memory. My mother might have remembered, or my brother Fred. He is the family historian, the keeper of archives. He'd find a way to know. But I find that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me where it is in time. I don't want to know to anchor this memory. In fact, in the month, the year, the model of the car we were driving, which state, which highway, which mountain pass, which destination. I think that's because for me, it works better as an archetype, which it was and is and has always been in my memory. Floating there, unanchored, it metaphorizes my early life, my experience of childhood, what life felt like. Dangerous, hairpin turns in the high country at the pitch of midnight with unforeseen disasters pending. That memory, unanchored, explains me to myself in a way that anchored it wouldn't have the power to. It fed my dreams, my nightmares through my 30s, the ones that caused Martha to say, she was my therapist, your dreams alone indicate that you sustained ongoing, extreme childhood trauma. The freeways littered with freshly wintered body parts, the remnants of accidents that happened before I got there. This memory seeded those dreams, I'm sure. The way a seed cloud generates rain on parched plains. And my dreams reseeded the memory. So each shaped the other over time. My brother's story. I don't know when that happened, Shawnee. It was really early on, right after Helene took us from David. I remember it. It was only one car, full of people, probably drunk, going way too fast. I remember what you remember, Helene commenting on it. But they didn't crash into another vehicle. They swerved to miss a deer and slammed into a sheer cliff head-on, going probably 60 or 70. It was a bloody mess, a bloody, bloody, god-awful mess. Ed tried to help, but there wasn't much he could do. We gave them blankets. Science project, Pocatello. As a child, I was always drawn by death. I thought it was a 5th grade project, but I started it so early. Early, I slammed out the shack door, trotting barefoot on night-cool dust, through sage, mountain flowers, and purple weed, combing the borders of the government land, looking for death. Sometimes I found it. Horse skulls, eye sockets, jackrabbit bones, field mice under a juniper, lizard skins drying on the hot red rocks. Desire lines. They call these desire lines, she said, pointing to the narrow dirt path winding off the paved walk to the brick staircase below Stevens Hall. We make these, she said, when we want to move differently from the plan others have laid out for us with pavement. Look, she said, how deep that groove is. Imagine, she said, how many people must have wanted to veer off the pavement just there to make such a clear, deep trail through the crisp, clipped lawns of campus. Truth cuts. Truth cuts like a knife, but truth cuts like a knife is a cliche. Truth doesn't know this. Truth doesn't care. It will slice you anyway. It will stand there. It will watch you bleed. Supplanted, a daughter's song. It has always been this way. Somebody else calls him daddy. Somebody else calls him honey. Somebody else calls him mine. So you wander the turquoise water under a tangerine sky while rose petal sand slips away beneath your feet. You turn in the lavender air. You spread your arms wide. You lean on the trunk of the grandfather tree. You lean in, strong, soft torso on rough bark. You feel the sweet treacle of your darkness drawn out, seeping down, draining into the deep. So you wait for light to take you, for light to rise from the caverns of the earth. So you wait for it to seep, many-colored, into your stony soul, like gold in veins, like gold in the veins of this time's dross dreams. Star Garden. We seeded you in time's abandoned caverns. We watered you with song, fed you with imagined sky, walking softly while hell's hounds gathered in shadows. We whispered your names, each to each, and listened as your light rose to meet us. Talisman, the title poem of this book, is for Zuni and Ishi. This is a poem that I wrote for a couple of Arabian pintos. I'm horse crazy, I'm not horse in my life. And a couple years ago, just magically, these two Arabian pintos came into my life for a short period of time. And I wrote this poem for them, Zuni and Ishi, brother and sister. You feel like fruition, that blessing in a native tongue on the street outside the tavern after after drinks in Santa Fe from the shaman selling his last semi-precious stone-strung necklace for $12 to buy a room for the night. That blessing he bestowed on me as his voice rose and sacred space descended. And then lastly, Sister of the Caves, or Shawnee. That's me. It's another version of me, actually. My Sister of the Caves, surrounded by stone, dark cities I've watched you run through in dreams, thinking, this is not a dream. How the stones weep or bleed, how some nights you stand trapped until a voice says, rise, and you feel your body lift straight up, but never beyond your ceiling of no-color sky. Dream after dream I watched you. Now I place my galaxy hand on yours. Now our matching palms merge through this opalescent light. Now you know I see you